Good morning, everybody. It's 9 o'clock here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. We're going to get to Majestic here shortly. In the meantime, wanted to follow this crash right now. This is along 85, and you can see a major backup there. This is what we know so far. This is on the northbound side of I-85, right at mile marker 30. So this is near I-485, right at that Mecklenburg-Gaston County line. You can see the flashing lights, a number of cars there on the right shoulder, as well as a fire truck, at least one of them in the far right lane. And it looks like traffic is having to use the left two lanes to squeeze through. So as far as we know, this is going to be here until at least 12 o'clock. Maybe they open them up earlier.
Those are usually very vague.
Yeah, okay. So
give it
wide parameter.
It could be
hopefully or sooner than later.
Hopefully it's sooner.
That they reopen these lanes. But it looks like a multi-car crash there. And do we have a picture of the backup potentially on the map?
Maybe. Let me try and pull.
All right, we're going to try to pull that together. In the meantime, Medic says that they did not transport any people to the hospital, so that at least is encouraging news. No major injuries, if anyone was hurt, maybe minor injuries, and at least to the point where they have not had to transport any passengers to for medical care. So good news there. But again, I-85 northbound near mile marker 30. That's just around 485. And Carlene's pulling up the map here now on DOT's map. So looking at all of that red.
All that red.
And that's that top line, right?
Yep.
From the northbound side.
Yep.
Oh,
That's a
is
lot of
just a
red.
crawler.
Yeah.
All right.
So it goes back to
Yuck.
mile marker.
Well, through
Oof.
Gaston County.
Oof. It keeps going.
The more and a lot of folks
21.
21, so about 9 miles.
9 miles.
Kind of the tail end of the morning rush, but no one's rushing there, heading into Mecklenburg County. So account for that. If you know anyone that is trying to make an appointment in Charlotte, they're going to be delayed.
Yeah.
Northbound side of I-85. All right, we'll continue to follow that and let you know when it clears as soon as we know. Back here now at 9:03, the House Intelligence Worldwide Threats hearing is taking place. This is in D.C., and that is Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Busy week for her as she is part of this committee or part of this event, and along with CIA Director John Ratcliffe, we'll be hearing from FBI Director Kash Patel, as well as some other officials. This is their annual Worldwide Threats Assessment hearing. Let's go ahead and listen in live on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
Its development of a nuclear counter-space weapon poses the greatest single threat to the world's space architecture. During the past year, the IC assesses that Russia has maintained the upper hand in its war against Ukraine. Ongoing U.S.-led negotiations between Moscow and Kyiv continue. Until such an agreement is met, if an agreement is found, Moscow is likely to continue fighting a slow war of attrition until they view their objectives have been achieved. In the Middle East, conflict and instability will shape security, political, and economic dynamics in a variety of ways. The IC assesses that Operation Epic Fury is advancing fundamental change in the region that began with Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, continued with the 12-day year, resulting in weakening Iran and its proxies. The IC assesses that the regime in Iran appears to be intact, but largely degraded due to attacks by Israel and the U.S. on its leadership and military capabilities. Its conventional military power projection capabilities have largely been destroyed, leaving limited options. Iran's strategic position has been significantly degraded. The U.S.-led maximum pressure campaign and snapback of European sanctions added additional pressure to an already bleak Iranian economy, resulting in mass protests earlier this year that Tehran suppressed by killing thousands of protesters. Even if the regime remains intact, internal tensions are likely to increase as Iran's economy worsens. Even so, Iran and its proxies continue to attack U.S. and allied interests in the Middle East. If a hostile regime survives, it will likely seek to begin a years-long effort to rebuild its military, missiles, and UAV forces. Prior to Operation Epic Fury, the IC assesses Iran was trying to recover from the severe damage to its nuclear infrastructure sustained during the 12-day war. Iran maintained the intention to rebuild its infrastructure and nuclear enrichment capability and continued to refuse to comply with its nuclear obligations with the IAEA, refusing them access to key facilities. The IC assesses that China, Russia, and North Korea see the United States as a strategic competitor and potential adversary. Iran has long viewed the U.S. as an adversary and is engaged in active conflict with the U.S. as of this writing. These four countries are likely to continue their selective cooperation with each other, which could bolster their individual capabilities and threats to U.S. interests more broadly. However, currently these relationships are primarily bilateral on selective issues and depend on broader circumstances, divergent sovereign interests, and in some cases concerns over directly confronting the U.S. These factors are likely to constrain their relationships. Finally, conflicts on the continent of Africa are likely to persist through 2026 due to poor governance, economic demands, and external support. Tensions continue between Ethiopia and Eritrea, which could rapidly accelerate to conflict. Contentious national and federal elections in Somalia could distract the federal government away from counterterrorism actions against al-Shabaab, which continues to conduct terror attacks while providing funding and propaganda support to other elements of al-Qaeda in Yemen. The civil war in Sudan continues even as external negotiations occur, and ISIS in West Africa and the Sahel have increased the intensity of their attacks against local security forces, expanding their areas of operation and moving closer to cities with a U.S. presence. African governments will use their wealth and critical minerals to seek partnerships that deliver them meaningful benefit. Concurrent conflicts and crises across the continent will continue to put U.S. citizens at risk and cause further instability. In closing, as leaders of the intelligence community, we remain committed to providing the President and policymakers with timely, unbiased, relevant intelligence to ensure the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Director Gabbard. We appreciate that. We'll now.
All right, while they transition to the host of speakers there at this hearing, we're going to take a quick break and check in with Majestic Storm on the other side of Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. It's 9:10 back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus with Majestic Storm. Had a cozy night of sleep, she was telling us, with her weighted blanket.
Have you ever slept with a weighted blanket?
I don't have a weighted blanket.
It's nice.
I hear they're very nice.
Really
yeah,
nice.
it's the way to go. But
I can't even sleep without like a little weight on me now. It's
oh,
odd.
I definitely need some weight, but they're piled on blankets rather than
like I layer it up.
weighted blanket.
Layer it up.
I'm going to try it.
Yeah, it's nice.
But yeah, a little tough to get up out of bed this morning,
I know,
for sure.
but we were thinking it's almost Friday.
It is.
It's going to be a beautiful day. We have sunshine, and the big weather story today is we're back into the 60s.
Yeah.
Finally. It's been a cold start to the week. I mean, we've had just kind of a wild week. The last couple of days, I should say, have been quite chilly. And now, as we're heading into our Thursday, this is a live camera. This one's coming in right over beautiful uptown. It is still a little bit cool out there, but at least we know temps temperatures are going to keep on getting warmer. And really, it's not just today, but the next several days, you'll notice that warming trend. Lake Norman looking great. I've been watching this camera all morning long because of how gorgeous it is. I've seen lots of people out and about, walking around, taking their dogs out this morning. We're back into the 60s today. If you like the 60s, I bet you'll love tomorrow. 70-degree temperatures for Friday. And I think tomorrow is going to be gorgeous. No cloud coverage, 70s. So enjoyable to do basically anything outside. And then for everyone who really loves the heat, this weekend we have 80s returning. One day we're getting really close to even 90 degrees. And March is just a wild month because we have so many extremes. The temperatures fluctuate so much, going from 20s and 30s in the mornings to talking about getting really close to 90 degrees. Currently, we're at 41 here in Charlotte. Areas to the south of us, right around the same. Charlotte checking in at 37, though. And then up in the mountains, 38, 39 degrees for Boone and Jefferson. It's beautiful in the mountains this morning. It's really pretty here in the city as well. And overall, we're going to be looking at temperatures that'll rise into the mid-60s. And you know what? That's our normal. That's where we should be for this time of the year. 65 degrees is our normal high temperature for this time of the year, and that's exactly where we'll be. Now, we'll see a good mix of sun and clouds throughout most of the day today, and then gradually clearing out as we head through tonight. Let's take you up into the mountains because the last couple of days in the mountains, even your temperatures have struggled a lot. 2 days ago, your daytime highs didn't even reach freezing. Yesterday got a little warmer into the 30s, and then today, very nice. 55 degrees there in Boone, 54 in Blowing Rock would be a perfect day to spend a little time out there. Maybe grab a hot coffee, go do a little shopping at their cute boutiques downtown. As we're looking at foothills, we're looking at 67 in Morganton, 65 degrees there in Maiden, and then just to the south, right around Charlotte, mid-60s from Concord to Albemarle. I know lots of people will be out and about, walking around, riding their bikes. Lots of people who have motorcycles love to go cruising when the weather starts warming up, so make sure you're extra careful when you're out and about traveling over the next several days. 66 for Lancaster and 65 degrees this afternoon out there in Chester. Pollen, I mean, I have been feeling it. I know many of you have, and those temperatures, they're just going to keep on warming up this weekend, so the pollen is going to worsen. Now, it's pretty because a lot of the trees are slowly starting to change more green, and some of the flowers are starting to bloom amongst a lot of the other things, but look at this. I mean, we're looking at high levels of oak, pine, even sweet gum right there as we're looking at those levels that'll continue to get even higher and higher, especially through Sunday when our temperatures will really be warm and those winds will stay pretty calm. Satellite radar looks like this across the Carolinas. Like to always give you a big picture perspective to show you what's going on. And it's a quiet day really across the southeast. Rain chances, they're 0 today. They'll be 0 for our Friday as well. Saturday, I think we're going to have to sneak in a few clouds for our Saturday forecast. Although we'll be into the 80s, we have just an isolated chance for a random pop-up stray shower. Sunday, we're completely dry. It's all about the warm, almost summer-like conditions. And then Monday, small rain chances will return. So we know we're back into the 60s today. Futurecast looks like this. Around 5 o'clock tonight, you'll see temperatures still into the 60s right around dinner time. So if you're somebody who likes to get outside, maybe you work from home, you grab your laptop, you want to work outside for a little bit, today would be a good day for that. Or maybe you just want to read a book outside for a while or take the kids to the park. Today's excellent for that. Tomorrow morning for our Friday, we're starting out the day with clear conditions, temperatures into the upper 30s, low 40s. So it's mild. You feel a little bit of that cool air early in the day, but our temperatures for our Friday, they're going to warm up pretty fast. We'll be back into the 70s for our daytime highs, and then a few more clouds will sneak through late in the day on Friday. Saturday is going to be beautiful as well. Look at this. This is 7 o'clock in the morning. Temperatures mainly into the 50s, so a mild start to the morning. And then Saturday afternoon, we're looking at very warm conditions as temperatures climb into the mid to upper 70s and then eventually some 80s. Here's our day planner for tomorrow. So Friday, we're heading into the weekend with beautiful weather. Out the door for our Friday forecast, 7 o'clock, 40-degree temperature. So the last few mornings we've been starting out mainly into the 30s. So tomorrow morning we'll feel a little bit better. Plenty of sunshine up until about 2, 3 o'clock for our Friday. And then more clouds will start to sneak in. And our temperatures tomorrow will top off around 75 degrees. Now, over the next 7 days, look at these. These are going to be the temperatures, and truthfully, this is just the big weather story. We'll see the daytime highs go from well below average over the last couple of days to seasonal conditions today, and then going above average. So by Saturday, 82 degrees will be our high. That's 16 degrees warmer than where we should be for this time of the year. On Sunday, 88 is where we should top off. That's 22 degrees warmer than where we should be. But then as we head towards next week on Tuesday, we'll start to see some of that cooler air filter back in across the Carolinas, 59 degrees, so back on track to cooler than normal. So a little all over the place, but it's really all about the temperatures. That's the biggest part of our forecast over the next few days, rounding off our work week and heading into the weekend. Even our overnight lows, they have been cold. I've actually seen several frost pictures. We won't have to deal with that this weekend. Our low temperatures only drop down into the 50s and low 60s, which means a sign of spring is ahead. Now, meteorological spring already started March 1st. We just measure our seasons different, but for everyone else, the first day of spring officially starts on Friday. Friday at 10:46 in the morning. It's going to feel like spring. It's going to be a gorgeous spring day. So that means today is our last full day of winter. We have made it. Now, waking up tomorrow morning, it will still be winter technically, but once we hit 10:46, we are jumping forward and heading into spring. Weekend forecast, want to quickly break this down for you. 82 degrees on Saturday. Hopefully you have some outdoor plans. If you want to wash your car, do it anytime. The next several days will be great to do it. I know I need to get that done. I've also noticed a lot of people out and about working in their yard, mowing their lawn, because some of that grass has started growing fast after a couple of those good soakings that we've had. Sunday, 88 degrees for our high temperature, almost 90 degrees on Sunday. Here's our Jerry Hunt Super Center 7-day forecast. So overall, just a really nice mix of sun and clouds today. Seasonal, our average high is 65. We're forecasting 65 degrees today. 75 and sunshine on Sunday. Most people love mid-70s. That's going to be a great day. We start to get a little warm Saturday and especially on Sunday. Might be a good weekend to fire up the barbecue, invite some people over and hang out in the backyard. And then next week we'll be seeing those temperatures trickle down. Tuesday we bottom off into the upper 50s, and then as you can see, we'll just keep on warming up after that. By Wednesday we're back into the mid-60s. So that's what I've got for you guys.
I just loved it. I just wanted to sit on it for a while.
I like
take
soaking it all in.
Soaking
Yes.
it in well with the sunshine. So yeah, bring it.
Yeah.
Can you believe it's the last full day of winter?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the day I've been waiting for.
We've been waiting
Yes.
for this. This is our transition day. We're wearing
Turtlenecks
leopard
out.
turtlenecks out.
Yep.
Spring clothes in.
There
Yep.
we go.
Light, easy breezy.
Although we know how March is,
I
there
know.
will still
and
be
down.
something where all of a sudden you're like,
Keep one in the
winter,
back
what you
of the
doing?
drawer. Yeah, you know, we'll
Yeah.
have one on hand.
Oh, Majestic, I'm going to call an audible here. Can you update this crash here, 85, 485?
Let's see.
We're looking at it right now.
Oh yeah, so we
There's
just been
more moving.
But you were,
We've been following this for a while now. It's the northbound lanes on I-85, right between the Mecklenburg County line and the Gaston County line, right there to get onto I-45. So it's right there on the ramp. I know when I was just getting off of air, it wasn't confirmed exactly what happened, but as you can see, heavy police activity. But honestly, a little earlier today, there were so many police cars there. So it seems like things are getting better, but as you can see, we still have a little bit of a delay. I think that garbage truck off to the side was also involved in it.
Yeah.
So definitely still an active scene, but getting better.
That backup, we saw Carlene, what was it, 9 miles or so out of Gaston County.
It was a long,
980,
long
21.
way.
All right, so something still keeping an eye on that, and at least you've got the raise to just sort
It's
of
moving more than it was when we
soak
first took
through.
it.
That's true. That's true.
There's more.
So hopefully
there's
wrapping
more
things
moving.
up there in the cleaning stages,
Yeah.
shall we
It
say?
says exit 30 backed up to exit 29 right now.
To 29? Mm-hmm. It's more than a mile.
I mean, sorry, not 29, 26. So
Oh.
exit 30 backed up to
Mile, okay.
26. 26. Everyone 26. I keep on saying 29. 26.
Okay. All right, very good. Last day of winter. Thank you, Majestic. So lovely
course.
to have you bring in the sunshine.
Thank you. I will see you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow as we welcome in spring. In the meantime, let's take a break here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. At 9:24 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, taking place today in Washington, is a hearing. This is the House Intel hearing. It's an annual hearing called Worldwide Threats Assessment. There you can see Director of National Intelligence. Well, that was Tulsi Gabbard earlier, but FBI Director Kash Patel, CIA Director John Ratcliffe also taking one of the seats, as well as Tulsi Gabbard. Let's go ahead and listen in on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Iran was preparing a nuclear weapon, planning a preemptive attack on the United States, or possess any immediate capability to strike the U.S. homeland. That raises very serious questions about what the analysis of the IC provided before the decision to go to war was made. Directors Gabbard and Ratcliffe, is there any evidence that Iran intended to conduct a preemptive attack on the United States? And I ask this because 13 service members have been killed in Trump's war, including Captain Seth Koval, a husband and a dad from my state of Indiana, and my constituents want answers. So is there any evidence that Iran intended to conduct a preemptive attack on the U.S. prior to beginning this war, yes or no?
Congressman, the answer to this question needs to be reserved for a closed hearing. I will say, however, the intelligence community does provide the assessments of the threats that exist to the president so that he can make that determination within the body of information and intelligence and activities within the region that ultimately he is responsible for. What is an imminent threat, and if there is an imminent threat, what actions need to be taken?
Congressman, as the DNI said, there's a body of intelligence that we'll be able to cover in the classified portion of this hearing that does reflect that in the likely event of a conflict between Iran and Israel, that the U.S. would be immediately attacked, regardless of whether the United States stayed out of that conflict.
Shifting gears to Ranking Member Himes' point, let me read to you from the 2025 Annual Threat Assessment under your watch last year. Quote, Moscow's malign influence activities will continue for the foreseeable future and will almost certainly increase in sophistication and volume. Moscow probably believes information operations efforts to influence U.S. elections are advantageous, regardless of whether they affect election outcomes. By contrast, this year's threat assessment makes no mention of foreign threats to elections. Meanwhile, the IC has been publicly warning about foreign powers interfering in our elections for nearly a decade. So the omission is very striking. And to that point, sitting here today, I'm not aware of any intelligence products in the past year dedicated to foreign plans and intentions toward current and future U.S. elections. Director Gabbard, yes or no, ma'am, have you directed or been directed to stop or limit dissemination of intelligence reports or finish intelligence reporting concerning foreign plans and intentions about upcoming U.S. elections or foreign threats to the midterms?
No.
Director Patel, same question for the FBI, sir. Yes or no, sir?
No, sir.
Director Ratcliffe, same question for the CIA, sir. Yes or no?
No.
General Hartman, same question for NSA. Yes or no, sir?
No, sir.
General Adams, same question for the DIA. Yes or no, sir?
No, sir.
I yield back, Chairman.
Gentleman yields. Ms. Stefanik.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Gabbard, when you began your testimony, you stated that your remarks do not represent your personal beliefs. That's the first time I've heard that at a committee hearing. Why did you say that? Or is there anything in the threat assessment that you personally disagree with?
Thank you for the question, Congresswoman. The reason I've said that is twofold. Number one is when I assumed this role as Director of National Intelligence through the confirmation process and beyond, many members of Congress rightly said, your personal views and your politics in this role get checked at the door. And as Director of National Intelligence, my responsibility is to report the intelligence community's assessments objectively and to make sure that they are not politicized in any way, shape, or form. Unfortunately, there are those who for one reason or another, have tried to mischaracterize the intelligence community's assessments and saying, well, this is just a political view, or trying to misdirect from what the intelligence community is reporting. So I took the opportunity to state that from the outset, that this is the intelligence community's assessments.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask this because this week there was a high-profile resignation of Director of National Counterterrorism Center. Now, I want to be clear from the outset. I've communicated directly with President Trump my support for Operation Epic Fury, and I was very not only disappointed, but how inappropriate this letter was. And I want to read a statement that and get your personal assessment, whether you agree or disagree with that. And that's this. Early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States and that you should strike now. There was a clear path to a swift victory. This was a lie and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into a disastrous Iraq war. Now, I cannot say how much I disagree with that statement. Do you agree or disagree with what this letter was put out by former Director Kent?
He said a lot of things in that letter. Ultimately, we have provided the president with the intelligence assessments, and the president is elected by the American people and makes his own decisions based on the information that's available to him.
But do you agree with, does that statement he made, blaming Israel, concern you?
Yes.
My next question is, I want to touch on the rise of terrorist attacks on the homeland. In the month of March alone, there were multiple high-profile Islamic terrorist attacks. You had Temple Israel Synagogue in Michigan. You had in Texas, you had an ISIS-inspired attack where they threw an IED in New York City. What is your assessment as to the rise of Islamic terrorism on the homeland?
As you've pointed to, Congresswoman, this continues to be an extreme concern, not only because of the rise of these attacks, but the mechanisms which they're carried out and the challenges that the intelligence community has in being able to try to detect some of these threats and attacks in advance. I'd like to defer to the FBI director on some of this because they have been very successful in many cases over the last year in detecting them and preventing these attacks. But due to the nature of the challenge in many of these attackers not having contact with known foreign terrorist entities or individuals makes this a much more challenging threat to deal with.
And I want to turn to Director Patel. I think that's a good, important segue to get your assessment. And I also want to add another aspect of the question. We're working on a 9/11 Commission review, 25-year review. What other tools do you need to make sure that we are able to have the most robust, effective CT efforts?
Yeah, thank you, Congresswoman. Just real quick, so last year we had 2,300 arrests related to foreign terrorist organizations. We had 700 counterterrorism arrests, and the FBI had 640 counterterrorism disruptions where we stopped attacks on the homeland. Specifically in December, we stopped 4 in an 18-day span. What I need is specifically highlighted in the Norfolk attack. In Norfolk, an individual who was convicted of terrorism and sentenced based upon that conviction should have still been in prison. The Department of Justice in the first Trump administration sought a sentence of 240 months. The judge in that case downward departed and gave a variance to nearly half that sentence. If that had not occurred, that individual would still be in prison and a member of our uniformed military service would still be alive. I want to work with the legislature to figure out how to increase the sentencing for convicted terrorists and also work on the denaturalization process for someone who should not be in this country who wants to attack and kill American citizens and American service members.
Thank you. Yield back.
Gentlewoman yields. Mr. Castro.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you all for your testimony today. I want to start with a question about Iran and discuss first how the war began. Secretary Rubio told us that Israel was going to strike Iran regardless, and that doing so would have triggered Iranian retaliation against U.S. forces already in the region. And Director Ratliff, you seem to affirm that in comments just a few moments ago. So rather than tell Israel to stand down, the president joined the war. The Congress and the American people still don't know what the president's actual goals are. And yet, we have lost 13 U.S. service members. But here's what we do know. The president has said that he wants a deal. He said Iran wants to make a deal and that he's not ready because, quote, the terms aren't good enough yet. Yet, they just killed Ali Larijani, the de facto leader of Iran, who, while not a friend of the United States, would have been the person to negotiate any agreement with. The president explicitly said that the United States did not strike Iran's energy infrastructure because, in his words, having to rebuild it, quote, would take years. Yet this morning, Israel struck the South Pars gas field, the world's largest natural gas reserve, triggering Iranian attacks on Qatari gas facilities. Oil prices are up 15% in the last 24 hours. In San Antonio, my hometown, where I represent, the cost of gas has gone up nearly 40% in 3 weeks. Last night, the president said that the United States knew nothing about the attack and called on Israel to stop similar attacks on energy. Israel denies this and says that the attack was cleared by the United States. So my question is, what does the intelligence community assess Israel's goals in this war to be? And are those goals aligned with the goals of the United States?
I'm thinking carefully here about what can be said in this open setting versus a closed setting.
Are the goals aligned?
The objectives that have been laid out by the president are different from the objectives that have been laid out by the Israeli government.
And how do they differ?
We can see through the operations that the Israeli government has been focused on disabling the Iranian leadership and taking out several members, obviously beginning with the Ayatollah and the supreme leader. And they continue to focus on that effort.
How does that differ from our goals?
The president has stated that his objectives are to destroy Iran's ballistic missile launching capability, their ballistic missile production capability, and their Navy, the IRGC Navy, and mine-laying capability.
So the death and destruction continues. The economic cost to the United States, to Israel, to the Gulf states, and to the world continues to increase. So I want to ask you, to the best of your knowledge, do you know whether Israel is supportive of the president's call to make a deal with Iran?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know Israel's position on that.
And to what do you attribute Israel's decision to strike Iranian energy infrastructure, despite President Trump's call to keep those facilities off limits?
I don't have an answer for that.
So they ignored the president. Do you agree with that?
I'm not privy to any of their deliberations or what went into their calculus in launching this or other attacks. We are not involved in the operational element of this. We're providing continuously on a daily basis the intelligence assessments of the events that are occurring and
I guess I know the FBI can't because they're domestic, but can anybody else at the table provide any insight into that?
I guess I'm not sure what the question you're asking, Congressman Castro. I guess a couple of things. The goals that the president set out are clearly defined. The DNI related those. What was not included is a goal of the U.S.
Well, Director, let me start with this. Let me start with this question. You asked what my question is. Let me reclaim my time, Director. Come on. Do you know why Israel decided to strike that infrastructure despite the fact that the president said it should be off limits?
I wouldn't speak for Israel.
What do you guys know? We're at war. What do you guys know?
We'll have to take that for the record.
Yes, let's take it for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to welcome the panelists here today. Today is March 19th. On April 19th, FISA goes dark. 702 goes dark. And it's been talked about many times, but up to 60% of the president's daily briefing is derived from FISA 702. And we look at the successes that we've had in protecting the homeland and also the conflicts the U.S. has been involved with, the flawless operation in Venezuela, Operation Fury in Iran, troop protection, the successes we've had on the battlefield in Ukraine, the recovery and release of the Hamas hostages in the tunnels in Israel, all derived from FISA 702. There is not a military operation that we've been involved with where FISA 702 was not, as Director Ratcliffe has said, been indispensable to the United States in the protection of our country. Director Patel has also said FISA 702 is indispensable. We're 30 days away from it going dark. Director Ratcliffe, can you clarify the President's position on an 18-month clean reauthorization and how that's going to proceed moving forward?
Congressman, thank you, and thank you for highlighting this issue. So the President is in favor of an 18-month clean reauthorization of FISA 702, and I would add to that, I'm heartened by the fact to hear that the chairman of this committee and the ranking member are in agreement with that. And I know there's bipartisan support for that, and there should be. And I know this is an important vote for you to take, but I would ask that you all consider when you do that, when you look at the fact that former DNIs and former CIA directors and former FBI directors and DIA directors and NSA directors across Republican and Democrat administrations are in support of FISA 702 in its current form. These are the people that are making the decisions to keep Americans safe. And so I wish the reauthorization was longer than 18 months, Congressman. I think that this is something that I wish you all would consider for longer than that, so that regardless of who the president is in the future, he or she would have the benefit of, as you said, a tool that's indispensable across administrations, provides more than half of the important actionable intelligence that the president and the commander-in-chief relies upon.
Thank you for that. Director Gabbard, you're supportive of the 18-month extension the president's seeking without a warrant requirement?
That is the president's position, and that is the position of the intelligence community.
And you will be supporting that, correct?
I will support the president's decision to execute this.
Correct. Thank you. Director Gabbard, we implemented 2 years ago a number of reforms, actually 56 of them, that were part of the Reforming Intelligence and Securing America Act, RISA. And that was done in a bipartisan way. That was a reflection of what we thought were problems with FISA 702, going back during the first Trump administration and even before that. These reforms that have been put in place and that you have helped implement, I was wondering if you could talk specifically about those reforms on the cutting down of FBI agents having access to querying of FISA information, the fact that there are criminal penalties now for FBI agents that are engaged in inappropriate activity as it relates to FISA. Please tell us some of those reforms and how those have been implemented. Director Patel.
Sorry, I thought you were asking DNI. Absolutely. So we've gone above and beyond what RISA requires since I became director 13 months ago. We not only require supervisory special agents to approve the query request of U.S. persons, we also require the general counsel's office and lawyers to come in and agree with that request before we can proceed. Also, we have we used to, before this, had a default which allowed queries when we were utilizing our system to say it automatically searches 702. You now have to actually opt in and select that box to make sure that you are intentionally doing so. On top of that, we've reduced the number of personnel at the FBI from 6,600 before I got there to 3,500 that have access to it. Not that use it, but that have access to it. And we've also gone above and beyond what RISA requires in terms of if you misuse it unintentionally or recklessly. If you use it misuse it unintentionally, like you typed a name wrong in terms of spelling or whatnot, you have to, your access is suspended and be retrained. If you recklessly use it, you're immediately terminated your access forever.
Thank you.
Mr. Crow.
Thank you, Chairman. Director Gabbard, it is your job and the job of your agency and department to assess the views of Iranian leadership, their policy beliefs, and policy positions, correct?
Yes.
That includes now deceased Ali Khamenei of Iran, correct?
Yes.
And the now leader, his son Mujtaba Khamenei, correct?
Yes.
The son is...
All right, you are watching right now Worldwide Threats hearing taking place. This is going to be taking place all day out of D.C. We're going to take a quick break here on Live Impact News on WCNC+. At 9:46, back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, we take you back out to the hearing taking place, hosted by the House, on worldwide threats. This assessment happening live on WCNC Plus.
Yes, based on the information available at any given time.
In the timeline also for potential terrorist attacks, correct?
Broadly, yes,
It
assesses
is
all
common
matters
practice
available.
for the
that-
IC
that.
to assess the timeline of all threats. Nuclear weapons development, ballistic, right?
Yes,
Ballistic weapons development,
based on the information available, yes.
terrorist attacks,
Same applies.
cyber attacks, timelines for all of those, correct?
When there is information available that point to that, yes.
And likelihood, as well as the timeline, correct?
Based on the information available.
Timing is important, is it not?
It is an important factor that goes into the assessment.
So it is your position sitting here today that you made no timeline determination as to threats that Iran had facing the United States, correct?
It's a very broad statement, but where the information is available, the intelligence community factors that into their assessment products.
Did you or the IC make any assessments as to the timing of potential threats facing the United States from Iran in the last 90 days?
I'm sure there was timelines factored into the intelligence assessments that were delivered.
Did any of them show imminence?
The imminent nature of a threat is determined by the president based on a totality of the intelligence and information provided to him.
Did any of them show that there were attacks anticipated within the next 90 days from Iran?
It's too simplistic of a statement to say that because it depends on various scenarios occurring or not occurring.
Did those assessments show timelines for the threats that Iran posed to the United States?
The totality of threats, yes, there were timelines involved where it applied and where that information was available. But again, to your question about the determination of imminence, the president makes that determination based on the totality of information and intelligence.
The bottom line is there was no
context that he has
imminent threat,
provided.
and you know that, and there's no product that shows that. I yield back.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here today. I want to expand on the questioning from my colleague, Mr. LaHood, regarding FISA 702. Obviously, it is the imminent issue right before us. Will expire in a month. Unequivocally, the most critical national security tool our nation has to keep us safe from fentanyl, from foreign wars, and everything in between. Mainly to Director Ratcliffe, but any of you can answer this. One of the most perplexing debates that I've been subject to in my time here is this debate over what warrants are and when they're needed. In the 250-year history of this country, and going back to the very origins of law enforcement, we have always had a warrant requirement, on the collection of evidence. We have never had a warrant requirement on the querying of already lawfully collected data, which is why we don't require police officers to get warrants when they run license plates, querying off of already lawfully collected DOT data. It's why we don't require police officers to get a warrant to enter the evidence locker in their police precincts, which contains already lawfully collected data. It would literally shut down the system. And that's not a warrant requirement. That's a secondary warrant requirement. That's a warrant requirement on steroids. So, Director Ratcliffe, or any of you, I know you've been subject to these questions as well. Is it just a confusion over the difference between the collection of evidence versus the querying of our already lawfully collected data? Is it a lack of understanding of what incidental collection is, which is a fundamental precept of law enforcement? But if we have a warrant requirement on steroids for now the querying of already lawfully collected data, just by the numbers, that would require an expansion of the federal judiciary by a factor of 100. It would literally shut down our law enforcement apparatus at perhaps the most dangerous time in our nation's history. So, Director Ratcliffe, or any of you, if you could just walk me through your analysis there.
Well, I'll start, Congressman. Thanks for the question. Again, thanks for highlighting this important issue. And as has been pointed out, reforms should be implemented where they're necessary, and I think, speaking for myself, and I know Director Patel supported the reforms from 2 years ago to make improvements, and they did. And so some reforms should be considered. A warrant isn't one of them. And with respect to the reforms that have been implemented, we're talking about, when we talk about Fourth Amendment rights and privacy concerns, we're at a 99.9% compliance rate with respect to that. So I would start by saying, why are you trying to fix what's not broken with something that I can tell you from this seat, the fix would not work. And I go back to my comment before. DNIs, CIA directors, FBI directors, the people that have been in all of these chairs before on a bipartisan basis agree that a warrant won't work and don't advocate for it. Again, Congressman, you're correct. This is lawfully collected information, and these things come at you very fast, and you have to make decisions very quickly, and sometimes in a matter of hours. You have to act on the information that you have lawfully, that has been lawfully collected to interdict drug shipments or terrorist activities, and a warrant requiring you to go to the court to seek probable cause for information that has already been lawfully collected only prevents that from happening. I don't understand. I understand that it's well-meaning for people that are proposing it, but again, I would defer to the people who sit in these chairs and make these decisions who would tell you that it doesn't work.
Anybody else want to comment on the warrant requirement?
So, Congressman, I'd love to comment. Thanks for the question. I do just want to add a couple of points. Agree with everything Director Radcliffe said. Not only is this already collected data on foreign personnel outside of the United States, but the data that is being queried has also already been analyzed to ensure that it contains foreign intelligence value, which I think is a very important part of this. And then when we query a U.S. person term, we're not querying for U.S. person information. We're querying for foreign intelligence that has already been evaluated at least once to contain foreign intelligence in the database that's being accessed. And then the final piece that I think is important is that both the FISC and the Department of Justice have established robust legal and compliance rules that we adhere to and that is audited by DOJ for every query that we make.
Thank you. I yield back.
Dr. Barra.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Gabbard, we've known each other for a long time. We were both elected to Congress in 2012 and served together for a while. I may not have always agreed with your positions, but I respected the consistency of some of your positions. Director Gabbard, following the January 3rd, 2020 drone strike that killed Qasem Soleimani, you gave a speech on the House floor 6 days later, on January 9th, 2020. In this speech, that is permanently in the congressional record and available for anyone to view, you stated, quote, President Trump has committed an illegal and unconstitutional act of war, pushing our nation headlong into a war with Iran without any authorization from Congress, a war that would be so costly and devastating it would make our wars in Iraq and Afghanistan look like a picnic. On February 28, 2026, the Trump administration, under which you are the President's principal intelligence advisor, launched an illegal and unconstitutional act of war, pushing our nation headlong into a war with Iran without any authorization from Congress. This war has already been costly and devastating. 13 American service members have lost their lives, including Chief Warrant Officer Robert Marsden from my home of Sacramento, California. And approximately 200 service members have been wounded. The Pentagon reported that the first 6 days of Operation Epic Fury cost $11.3 billion. That averages almost $2 billion per day. That was the first 6 days, and now we're in the 19th day of this war. That's ballooned into a regional conflict, putting the lives of Americans and our allies throughout the Middle East in danger. Director Gabbard, do you still believe that strikes against Iran that don't have congressional authorization constitute an illegal and unconstitutional act of war?
Congressman, thank you for the question. The cost of war weighs very heavily upon me and my colleagues here, especially for those of us who have experienced and seen the cost of war firsthand.
Okay.
My own personal and political views, as I mentioned earlier, I was asked and required by Congress and by the President in this role as the Director of National Intelligence to check those views at the door to ensure that the intelligence assessments are not colored by my personal views.
Director
And that's
Gabbard,
exactly what I am
Do you
responsible
still
to
believe
deliver.
that war with Iran would be so costly and devastating that it would make our wars in Iraq and Afghanistan look like a picnic?
Once again, in this role, it is essential that I do not allow any of my personal views on any issues to color or bias the intelligence reporting that we deliver to you and to the President.
Director Gabbard, in this hearing 1 year ago, I asked some questions, and I'll paraphrase my exact question. It's like, we should keep politics out of this, even if the President disagrees with a directive, if it goes against his personal wishes, if he's considering an order that potentially is unconstitutional or illegal or compromises our security, I want your word that you will always provide and give the honest advice to the President, even if it will make him angry. I asked you that question. I'm going to read your answer. And to your specific question, the answer is yes. I will inform the President of that accurate, timely, unbiased intelligence reporting, whether it is something that agrees with an assumption or a view or an objective or not. That's my responsibility to him and to the American people. Director Gabbard, there is no imminent threat of nuclear breakout. Did you deliver that assessment to the President?
I have delivered the intelligence community's assessments to the President.
There was no imminent nuclear threat to the United States. There was no evidence of imminence that Iran was going to attack American assets. That was different from anything they've done over 4 decades. That was going to attack our homeland. There was no imminent threat. Imminent is defined in the dictionary as something that is about.
All right, we need to take a break here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We'll be right back. At 10 o'clock here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, you know, water shapes every corner of our lives. And as we get ready to mark World Water Day, our special guest today is Dr. Emily Fairfax. She is a beaver, an environmental expert at the University of Minnesota who is on a mission. Hi, Dr. Fairfax. Thanks for joining us here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
I should add, yeah, you also helped Pixar get the science right on their new animated film coming up, Hoppers. That's cool. How'd you get involved with that?
It was actually, they cold emailed me about 5 years ago and asked if I could give a talk about beavers to Pixar employees, and then another talk, and then another talk, and then another talk. And then I was taking them out into the field and reviewing the movie and providing critique on if it was scientifically accurate. It was a whole long process, and it's quite surreal still.
Oh my gosh, that is so fun. Carlene, my producer, is very excited about that.
That's
very
so cool.
impressed. I know.
I'm gonna keep that in mind. I'm gonna go.
I know.
home
Now
and
we're
see
going
it.
to watch Hoppers and make sure that we know where your work, had your imprint. World Water Day is coming up. Why is this day significant?
We depend on water so much. We drink water, we recreate in water, we use it for food and agriculture, we use it for development. Every part of our lives surrounds water. But we are also dealing with water challenges. We have floods, we have droughts, we have wildfires, and it can feel like a lot to deal with all these challenges on our own. So with World Water Day, what we're really hoping is that we can think a little bit more about nature-based solutions for protecting water and not being on our own, but instead partnering with the world around us.
All right. And are we looking at water insecurity in all areas of the world?
Pretty much. Even places that have a lot of water, like up here in Minnesota where I am, we might be getting more in the winter, but our summers are still hotter and drier. We have issues with water quantity in a lot of places. And even where water quantity might not be your number one concern, you probably have issues with water quality. And that's like pollution, agricultural runoff, metals, E. coli, all sorts of gross stuff in the water that we really don't want to be drinking. Everybody has water challenges to address.
Oh, yeah. You say E. coli, it's like, ugh. You are a nature-based solution seeker. What are we talking about here?
So you probably could guess this, at least coming from me, it's beavers. Beavers are a great nature-based solution. They are the only species other than humans that can go out and build wetlands. And most of the United States has lost somewhere between 50 and 90% of our historic wetlands. So when beavers go out and rebuild that, they're building a key part of rivers that keeps them healthy, that cleans the water, that slows the water down, and that makes sure it's available for us in a state that we like it all year round. Now there's other nature-based solutions too, but beavers are definitely my favorite.
Oh, they've got to be. And they're so adorable. And then how does that compare to the traditional engineering approaches?
There's a time and place for both. Sometimes if the challenge is so big that we can't address it just with nature, we need to come in with our human power tools and our big human gray engineering and do some work too. But with nature-based solutions, one of the things that's really important about them is they're incredibly low cost and they're incredibly sustainable. Once you kick off a nature-based solution, once you bring back beavers, once you plant native plants, or once you push your levees back, the river just keeps getting healthier on its own. So it's a one-time investment in a solution that can last for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Is there any pushback then from policy makers or other politicians or leaders when it comes to using nature-based or beaver solution?
There can be some pushback. Usually when we see pushback, it's coming from a place of just nervousness. It's asking a lot to have people trust a 80-pound semi-aquatic rodent. It's asking a lot to have people give up a little bit of control and believe that nature can and will do what we need it to do. So there can be pushback, but I also think that with education and outreach and showing people just how effective these are firsthand, it's nothing we can't overcome.
And then where are the areas in the U.S. that this is taking place, and how successful are they?
This is taking place across the U.S. It's abundant here in the Mississippi River Basin. It's on the East Coast, the West Coast, the mountains, prairies, deserts, forests, everything in between. I mean, anywhere there's nature, you can partner with nature. Anywhere there's beavers, you can partner with them, and they live in every single U.S. state except Hawaii. So we're not really limited in where we can do this, and we are taking advantage of that. We are engaging with nature across this country.
Anything else our viewers should know today?
If you want to know more about any of this kind of work, beavers specifically, you can visit my website, emilyfairfaxscience.com. Or if you want to know more about beavers as a nature-based solution or other nature-based solutions, you can go to the Walton Family Foundation's website at waltonfamilyfoundation.org/nature.
Dr. Emily Fairfax, we thank you this morning for joining us on a nature-based solution to some of our water issues out there, and we'll be watching for hoppers. Congratulations on the work there.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We'll be right back on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Back at 10:08 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, taking place today out of D.C. Should be all day, but this is the House Intelligence Committee holding their annual Worldwide Threats Assessment hearing, and all of our intelligence leaders, including FBI and CIA directors, as you can see there, as well as Tulsi Gabbard, taking the stand, if you will. Will you continue to listen in on Live Impact News?
Were you in a
Yes.
meeting? Were you in any meetings where that came up?
Yes, that is the intelligence community's assessments, and those were provided.
Director, did the IC, Director Radcliffe, if I can ask this to you, did the IC brief the president on who would succeed the Supreme Leader if he was killed and the likelihood that a replacement would be a hardliner?
Was the president, say it again, was the president?
Did the IC brief the president on who would succeed the Supreme Leader if he was killed and the likelihood that a replacement would be a hardliner or could be a hardliner?
So to be clear, the president's objectives with respect to Operation Epic Fury did not include regime change. That may be different from what Israel's objectives were, but yes, the president was briefed in the event that Supreme Leader.
Good. That's great. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just have 20 seconds. Director Patel, does Iran pose a threat to the homeland, and what specific steps are you taking to detect, prevent, and disrupt terrorist plots targeting Americans at home?
Iran, as the world's largest state sponsor of terror, does pose a continuing threat to the homeland. And just last year, our Iran Threat Mission Center housed in the FBI, our fusion cell, saw a 43% increase in Iranian spy actors willing to steal our information and attack our citizens. So that's just one example, sir.
Thank you. I yield.
Dr. Jackson.
Good morning. First off, I want to say thank you all for your time today, and thank you for our service to our country. Much appreciated. I thank the chairman for his opening remarks on anomalous health incidents, AHI. As many of you are aware, one of my primary responsibilities in this particular committee, I am the subcommittee chairman of Oversight and Investigations, where the investigation of AHI is and has been a central oversight effort. And so I am going to ask a quick question about this. Director Ratcliffe, during the Biden administration, the CIA very poorly, in my opinion, handled this issue. Since then, a CIA doctor has provided perjured testimony under oath and obstructed our congressional investigation. A quick question for you. Do you affirm that the CIA personnel are under no direction to make false statements to Congress in order to conceal CIA equities or activities related to the handling of AHI during the Biden administration?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I want to ask Mr. Patel, I got a question for you here. As a member of this committee, I also have a regional responsibility that includes Africa. I'm very concerned about the radical Islamic terror threat that exists there and is growing by the day. Whether it's al-Qaeda-affiliated groups such as JNMI, AQIM, al-Shabaab, or ISIS-inspired groups such as ISIS West Africa, ISIS Sahel, ISIS Somalia, or Boko Haram. These are radical, dangerous groups that want to kill Americans. After 4 years of an open border during the Biden administration, where we know countless individuals with terror ties, many to these groups, cross our southern border, and at a time when we are actively engaged with the largest state sponsor of radical jihadi terror, can you confirm that the threat to the American people in this setting is much higher due to the Democrats' current defunding of the Department of Homeland Security?
As I highlighted earlier, Congressman, the FBI works hand in glove with the Department of Homeland Security and our 59 established Homeland Security task forces around the country. And those officers are now going 1 month without pay, but they're still showing up to work. But yes, funding would absolutely help us protect the homeland.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One more question. Anyone that feels inclined can answer this. But according to the Council on Foreign Relations, another Africa-related question, 51% of global terrorism-related deaths occurred in Africa's Sahel region, including the Lake Chad Basin. Does the intelligence community assess that Boko Haram, ISIS West Africa, and other terrorist groups operating in the Lake Chad Basin are a threat to the U.S. interest, whether it's here in the homeland or regional U.S. interest? If so, how does this lack of counterterrorism cooperation that we're currently experiencing with the allied states of the Sahel, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso impact that? And tied to that, how does the rise of alternative security forces such as Russia's Wagner Group or now Africa Corps, how has that impacted our counterterrorism efforts in the region?
Congressman, the continued rise of these Islamist terrorist groups, as you've pointed out, in Africa, West Africa, and around the world continues to be a serious concern and major focus of the intelligence community. The challenges within the region are very complex because they have to do with governance challenges in many of these countries. They have to do with economic challenges as well as external influences, both with funding and equipping of these terrorist organizations. So yes, it has made our counterterrorism, long-standing counterterrorism efforts in these regions, as well as those of our allies in this fight, such as the French and other countries, far more difficult because of the very real threat within that region to U.S. persons. If we are not able, if the U.S., if the Department of War is not able to coordinate with and get the support of the governments of these countries in order to tackle this terrorist threat, then it's not a safe or operable environment for them to continue that fight.
Thank you. And the assumption I'm working off of, too, is that the Russian influence via Wagner or Africa Corps has made it very difficult for us to develop those relationships and get those agreements so that we can continue to, make sure that this is not being brought home to the homeland. Is that correct?
That is a factor of many.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I yield back.
Ms. Houlihan.
Thank you. My question is basically starting with some HR questions, and they're first for Director Patel. If you could help me a little bit understand, I come out of the military family as well, but I don't know very much about the FBI's HR process or the growing up of an FBI expert. Could you help me understand how long it takes for a senior counterintelligence expert, especially one maybe focused on a very narrow threat, to be developed? How many years, I guess, would be my question.
Thank you, Congresswoman. That varies. Sometimes right out of Quantico, new agent trainees are placed on the counterintelligence mission set, and some people come in from the fraud section, so the answer varies. It could take a couple months to a couple years.
And the next question is, when a person comes up in your system in the military, it was always the needs of the Navy or the needs of the Air Force. It was never the needs of the airman or the soldier or the sailor in terms of prioritizing our readiness, in terms of making sure that we met the mission. Is the FBI similar?
It is similar, ma'am. It's a dynamic threat landscape, so we flux and surge based on the CI/CT cyber threats and other threats to the homeland, and violent crime mission has seen a surge as well.
So my specific question is that there was a report that came out in February from CNN that the FBI had let go or fired dozens of agents and staff members from a counterintelligence unit tasked with monitoring Iran. And apparently the reason, at least reported in the press, was that these individuals had been involved in the investigation of classified document handling from President Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and that this was the reason why they were summarily let go. First of all, are you aware of those firings, and do you concur with the rationale or reason for those firings?
I'm aware of that, and I know there's a pendency of litigation, so I'm not able to comment on them.
Did you yourself order those firings?
The FBI, every time there is someone who violates our code of conduct or ethical standard, conducts an internal investigation with the careers there, and they present a decision point to me. The Iranian Threat Mission Center has seen an increase of 43% in arrests for Iranian spy actors. So the Iranian Threat Mission Center has never been stronger.
So I'm asking about whether those people were fired because they were involved in the investigation of the document handling by President Trump, not for any behavior issues. Is that your understanding as well?
Again, ma'am, I can't comment on them because those are in pending litigation.
I guess I'm a little stymied here, Director, because it feels as though literally when there was a possible pending war, I'm outside of this intelligence circle in many ways, even though I serve on the Intelligence Committee. You collectively must have been aware when these firings happened that there was a meaningful chance that the U.S. might be engaged with a war in Iran. And having these very expert, super qualified folks summarily dismissed at this time, it just feels like an odd choice in timing. Were you aware at the time that this was going down, that this may end up weakening the mission and the readiness of that group?
The mission, as I stated, has never been stronger when you see a 43% increase in counterintelligence arrests and 21% increase in cyber arrests against the Iranian Threat Mission Center. My focus is on providing the American people the strongest FBI as possible. I don't work on timelines. I work on evidence that's presented to me.
I guess my concern is that it feels as though, and I very much honor the tone and tenor of this hearing, that this is about making sure that that we depoliticize what is the most important thing that we all do, which is keep us safe. And it feels as though this issue is a political issue, and I just am worried that we are taking really good, really qualified people and picking fights with one another across party lines, rather than making sure that we protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe. With the remainder of my time, Director Gabbard, I have a question regarding the fact that the Secretary of the Treasury loosened restrictions this week on Russian oil exports, and now the Russians are able to sell oil again. Did the IC assess that clearing the way for increased Russian oil sales would benefit Moscow, possibly?
I don't believe there's been a formal IC assessment on this topic yet, as it is underway.
So I would highly encourage that, because it feels as though by easing these sanctions, we are directly providing the Kremlin with revenue, the revenue that will be used directly to kill Ukrainian soldiers, and an increased likelihood that Putin will be successful in his war with Ukraine. I thank you for your time, and I yield.
Ms. Wagner.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank our witnesses for...
And you've been listening live now to the World Threat Assessments hearing. That is an annual hearing taking place out of D.C. We have to take a break on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. At 10:22 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, to take you out live, PSA Airlines officially opening its new corporate headquarters in Charlotte, where Governor Josh Stein is set to speak here in a moment. But PSA, a subsidiary from American Airlines, moving now from its previous location in Dayton, Ohio, to Charlotte. And there's the governor. Let's listen in on Live Impact News.
We should talk about that. We will talk about it, and we will keep improving our DMV. What a treat it is to be with so many distinguished guests. Commissioner Chair, Mayor Pro Tem, legislators, thank you for being here. Thank you for being such effective advocates and representatives of the people of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County. We're here to celebrate some exciting news, the grand opening of PSA Airlines' new headquarters right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. This milestone proves what we have long known, that North Carolina is not only first in flight, we are the future of flight. North Carolina has become synonymous with aviation and aerospace innovation. We're home to more than 400 aerospace companies that contribute more than $88 billion to our economy on an annual basis. We are still gaining speed and altitude. PSA Airlines' decision further solidifies North Carolina's place in America's aerospace leadership. We've been putting in the work to make sure that we're ready for the jobs of today and tomorrow. We're home to a world-class workforce and a robust community college system that is producing students of need in high-demand industries. It includes multiple community college locations offering curricula in aerospace manufacturing and aviation systems technology. In addition to our people, our quality of life, location, and business environment are second to none. North Carolina last year has been ranked the #1 state for business, the #1 state for workforce development, the #1 state for economic development. We're the #1 state for job creation in this country in the fourth quarter, the #1 state where people from other states are moving to, even from Nevada. So PSA Airlines, we are pleased to welcome you to our success story. The move to Charlotte means that more than 400 good-paying jobs will be based right here in North Carolina. The investment is expected to support nearly $250 million in economic output across the state every year, while generating roughly $10 million in annual state and local taxes. And the headquarters will also support hundreds more positions across the state through the supply chain and in community businesses. PSA, we know that you had many choices about where to relocate, and we are so happy that you chose Charlotte, North Carolina. Economic development is a team sport, and Team North Carolina is the best in the business. An announcement of this magnitude doesn't just happen. It's the product of a strong collaboration by many actors, company executives, state and local elected officials of both parties, economic development professionals. And I want to acknowledge our educational partners that were critical to making this happen. UNC Charlotte, Central Piedmont Community College, Johnson C. Smith University, and the Aviation Institute of Maintenance, as well as the ATP Flight School, all here in Charlotte, North Carolina. These institutions are helping to build the skilled workforce that makes this an attractive place for companies to locate. For the first time in decades, North Carolina has a passenger airline headquartered in our state. Woo! That is certainly something worth celebrating. It reflects the strength of our aviation industry, the quality of our workforce, and the collaborative partnership that makes projects like this possible. We look forward to watching PSA Airlines soar to even new heights from their new home here in Charlotte. And I look forward to partnering with all of you to keep building a safer, stronger, and more prosperous North Carolina with real opportunity for every person. Thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you, Governor Stein. Please join us now in welcoming to the stage Mark Jarrell, Chairman of the Mecklenburg County Board of Commissioners.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's great to see everybody. It's an awesome day today, and I am Mark Jarrell, and I want to bring you greetings on behalf of the 9-member Board of County Commissioners. And it is great to be here with our governor, Mayor Pro Tem, my elected colleagues, and all of our dignitaries. This is an amazing day. And we are so proud to welcome PSA Airlines' new headquarters to our community. Mecklenburg County is home to one of the country's most dynamic aviation markets. And PSA's presence opens more opportunities for our residents to build long-term careers in this industry. With today's grand opening, we are actually reinforcing our commitment to excellence, aviation, and community through strategic partnerships and collaboration. PSA's investment shows confidence in our talent pipeline we are building, from K-12 through community college and beyond. The addition of PSA to our ecosystem aligns with the county's ongoing commitment to fostering greater upward mobility for our residents. And with today's launch, we are enhancing that ability to connect our residents to high-paying, high-growth careers in aviation and transportation. So I'd like to thank Governor Stein, our partners at Central Piedmont, American Airlines, the City of Charlotte, who actually has 6 members here, so you might have a quorum. So we're watching you closely, team. So you got to watch that group. Certainly our new partners at PSA Airlines for all the hard work that went into meeting this moment. So and it's really a moment that represents more than just a grand opening. What we're celebrating today is a transformative step for our local aviation industry, our economy, and even greater region. So through collaboration with CMS, we have the opportunity to expose our students early to the possibilities in aviation. Not to mention CPCC's aviation and advanced manufacturing programs that align directly with the needs of employers like PSA, from maintenance and engineering to IT, logistics, and operations. So I know I speak for everyone in this room when I say we can't wait to bear witness to the positive impact that PSA will have in this community. So to the entire PSA Airlines team, welcome to your new home. You are exactly where you belong, and I look forward to our partnership and service to our residents. So thank you, everyone, and God bless you.
And we'll get back to the grand opening of the PSA Airlines new headquarters right by the airport in just a couple of minutes. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Right now, it's 10:32 back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Exciting times there in West Charlotte. I'll take you back out to the grand opening of PSA Airlines happening right now.
Our position as a city and the leader of air travel. Together, we're powering a network that moves people and propels progress. Transit builds a city that people choose to live in. Your investment shows faith in that vision. Faith in who you are becoming and what we can achieve together. PSA, thank you for choosing Charlotte. Thank you for believing in this city and the people who make it work. We're proud to be partners, your neighbors, and your home. All the Charlotteers, repeat after me. CLT? CLT. Welcomes you? Welcomes you. PSA? PSA. Thank you.
Thank you. Please welcome to the stage now PSA Vice President of People, Christine Hollinshead.
Good morning, everybody. I don't know, I think we should hear that CLT one more time. Good morning, everybody, and thanks so much for being here today. We are sincerely so excited to be inviting all of our partners, government officials, and those to support our transition here to Charlotte and PSA. As the leader of the people team, my team, PSA, we get to fuel the airline, fuel, no pun intended, we get to hear some aviation puns today, with our people. And with that starts with being in Charlotte, which is an incredible place to put down roots for talent, for people and opportunities. And with our headquarters being new here in Charlotte, our hiring team, many of them are here today, have always welcomed team members to join PSA. We've actually been hiring in PSA for the last 10 years that I've been at the organization. And now we get to do that even more. Here in one building, one team, one campus, one culture. And as a matter of fact, when we kicked off our relocation announcement in January of 2025, pretty close to the end of the year, we saw 35,000 applications to fuel the opportunities and the positions that we had open. And now we've nearly reached almost 100% of those opportunities that were open as a result of the relocation. But being in Charlotte is more about recruiting. It's about being part of the community as well. And we need to continue how much we're going to be generating pathway programs and opportunities here in Charlotte. Each year, generally, we hire around 1,200 team members. And with that, we're proud to be able to bring in opportunities that support our crew, that support the operation, our safety, our maintenance professionals. And so to do that, we're really proud to invest more time in building partnerships and creating pathway programs. And one of the meaningful ways that we'll get to do that is a brand new partnership with Central Community College, Piedmont. And we're just hot off the press with a new MOU to do that. And so we're proud to announce a strategic partnership between PSA and Central Piedmont. And we're excited to expand further commitment. And with that, we get to continue to celebrate local and educational opportunities with Central Piedmont, with other organizations that will fuel more opportunity.
All right, everybody. Looks like they're dealing with a situation there. We're going to take a break on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. At 10:39 here, back on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We are still waiting to learn what happened at the PSA headquarters. Out of respect, we wanted to break away with that speaker in the middle of some apparent episode, and it looked like they did help her off the stage and into another room. But we are going to move on from that and head back to the hearing that's taking place out of Washington, D.C. This is on an annual hearing called Worldwide Threats Assessment. Let's listen in on Live Impact News.
About us with is climate change. So, you know your quote, and when you talked about climate change as a member, it threatens the safety and security of the planet, especially in places like Hawaii, where we are already experiencing its devastating effects. But respectfully, it's not in worldwide threats. Used to be in worldwide threats. So help me understand, who makes the final decision on what goes in here and what is a threat?
Congressman, it's a collection of the intelligence community's assessments that the National Intelligence Council and our experts there work on. This year, we've structured the annual threat assessment around the President's national security strategy to address the most tangible and direct threats to our security and our interests.
I get that part. Did you make the case that maybe climate change should be considered a worldwide threat when we are this collective process? Did you make the case with what you said not that long ago?
Yeah, once again, we focused on the most tangible and direct threats, given the complexity of those threats that exist here and on the homeland and around the world.
So that's stating that climate change isn't in any way a tangible threat now or in the future. It's basically saying we think so little of it as a threat, we don't even mention it.
I think the changing of the climate, the weather, the environment is a factor that goes into the different intelligence community assessments on effects.
Gentleman's time has expired. Ms. Tinney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much to our briefers and for your service to our country in multiple cases for some of you. And everyone who serves in the intelligence community to give the support to everyone that's serving. I fully support President Trump's efforts through your agencies over the last 18 days. We have to emphasize it's only been 18 days. And I think it was a courageous decision. And to the American people, I know many have recited this, but for the past 47 years, Iran has been the world's largest sponsor of terrorism. The Islamic Republic of Iran has operated with impunity. They've destabilized the Middle East, brutalized their own citizens, and have the blood of countless Americans and others on their hands, and now they're paying the price for that despotism. And I want to thank our service members and President Trump in making these difficult and stunning decisions. But it is also stunning what the Iranian people and so many in the Middle East and around the world have suffered from the regime. And I want to point out that in 2022, when Mahsa Amini was killed in the hands of the so-called morality police by the Iranian regime, it spurred I would say probably one of the most profound women's rights movements of our time. So many women stood up in the face of certain death, or at least imprisonment, definitely having an eye gouged out, like so many others, to stand up. And I am so grateful that these people now have an opportunity to actually have some kind of regime that would give them a chance at freedom after all these years. And I wanted to ask Director Gabbard, some of these people and many of these people do not seem to have access to outside information. Can you characterize what the access would be to the internet or cell phones for those in Iran who have no idea about anything and are only receiving the propaganda from the regime?
Congressman, I can expand on this in the closed setting, but I will say briefly that throughout the period of protest that we saw previously and during this ongoing conflict, the access of the Iranian people to basic things like power or internet or cell phone access is extremely limited.
So I want to ask the General, since General James, in this same vein, do you think that the internet suppression by the Iranian regime is an objective that would be protecting the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps?
Yes, ma'am. It's a TTP, and we will go into in great detail in the classified, but it's definitely a TTP to maintain control.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I look forward to that. I want to turn to the northern border, which I represent. Most of the northern border with the state of New York. Across the Lake Ontario shoreline, we know that many on the foreign terror watch list. In 2024, 358 suspects were found and arrested on the northern border. Fiscal year 2025, that number has been reduced to 307. I wanted to ask Director Patel, how would you characterize the type of those types of people that you have obtained, arrested, or encountered on the northern border? Cartels, Islamic terror, organized crime? How would you characterize those people, if you can?
Thank you, Congresswoman. With the solidification and reinforcement at the southern border, the northern border has become a target of opportunity for foreign terrorist organizations, cartels, those that wish to conduct espionage activities, basically all of the above.
How would you characterize the partnership of our Canadian friends to the north and their willingness to stop these individuals, especially in the last year or so?
At the FBI, we have engaged with the RCMP and their intel services at levels never seen before to specifically focus on the fentanyl productions north of our border. The cartels have shifted their operations to produce the lethal fentanyl that kills so many Americans. So that's one example where we're focused and locked in with our partners north of the border.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. One last thing I just wanted to ask. Upstate New York is now the new home to Micron, one of the world's 3 leading memory manufacturers and the only U.S. leading memory company. Memory produced at Micron is an integral component of the GPUs used to train America's dominant frontier models. I'd love to find out, Director Ratcliffe, what would be the economic and national security implications if China were to catch up on the U.S. on memory, GPUs, critical minerals, all those things that go into everything leading up to this, including the advent of AI?
Well, what you've seen, Congresswoman, is that when China can take advantage of things in the supply chain like critical minerals, they'll do that. This is particularly problematic in the area of all emerging technologies, and AI in particular. Obviously, whoever is dominant in the technology fields in the future will dictate the rules in the international marketplace. It would be devastating if China were ahead of us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I yield back.
Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Patel, you had a question from Dr. Jackson about the shutdown we're in now with Homeland Security, and I believe you said that this would be harmful to America because of the threat from Iran. Is that correct? Do I recall that correctly?
Generally, yes, sir.
How many days before we invaded Iran did you know we were going to launch an invasion?
We can get into those details in a classified setting, but I work with my colleagues across the spectrum here to give me advance warning so that we can reinforce.
Was it 2 days, 3 days, a month?
It was sometime before that, sir.
Sometime before that. So you had not. With that knowledge, why did you fire at least a dozen agents in Counterintelligence Unit 12 that specializes in Iran counterintelligence, which makes us much less secure and safe with this war going on from Iranian attacks potentially against our country?
As I said earlier, Congressman, I don't work on timelines when these terminations occur. There are internal investigations conducted by the careers at the FBI that highlight unethical or inappropriate conduct, and it's up to me to make the decision. But our Iran Threats Mission Center has never been more resourced. As I've highlighted, a 43% increase in counter-espionage arrests from Iran alone, and 360 ongoing terrorism investigations with Iran-affiliated individuals.
And the people you fired, those 12 people, they were experts on Iran, were they not?
I don't believe so.
They worked in counterintelligence, did they not?
I'm taking you at your word, sir. I'm not familiar with every
You're the
single
chief
word.
director. I'm not. You should know the answer. You fired the people. Where did they work?
People were terminated for violating their ethical obligations and the high standards.
Was the ethical violations that they dealt with the case of the classified documents that were found at the bathroom in Mar-a-Lago, was that the ethical issue?
As I said earlier, all those matters are pending litigation, so I'm not going to comment on them.
Director Gabbard, are you familiar with CI-12?
I'm not, Congressman.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. In the intelligence community's unclassified annual threat assessment from last year, It said, quote, Iran's large conventional forces are capable of inflicting substantial damage to an attacker, executing regional strikes, and disrupting shipping, particularly energy supplies to the Strait of Hormuz. It seems the IC was entirely correct in its assessment about Iranian retaliation in the Strait. Did the IC's assessment about Iranian capabilities in the Strait of Hormuz change in the past year?
No, Congressman.
Does Iran still have the capability to threaten shipping in the Straits of Hormuz with missiles, mines, and small boats?
Their capabilities have been largely degraded, but yes, they still have means to threaten passage through the Strait of Hormuz.
And how long can they keep the strait closed?
Based on current events, I'd have to get an updated assessment from the intelligence community on that.
Did you have an analysis of the impact of a war on global supply chains and the price of oil and gas?
I believe that assessment may have come from the Department of Treasury or Energy.
It didn't come through your office?
It came from their element within Department of Energy or Energy.
Do you know if the President was briefed on those assessments?
I believe so, but I can't confirm.
So if he was briefed on those assessments that that was a problem and the Straits of Hormuz could be shut off and that's causing a great problem in the world's economy with oil prices going up to, I think, under $120 or something a barrel and an effect on all countries' economies, why would the President not have taken actions to strengthen defense around the Strait of Hormuz?
All I can say is that the President ultimately is responsible for making the decisions based on the totality of information and intelligence that he has available to him.
The intelligence that he has available to him, that's a scary thought. Does the IC know where Iran's enriched uranium is?
The IC has high confidence that we know where it is.
And can you tell us that in classified?
We can speak more about this topic in the classified setting.
Okay. Could it be, do we have methods of destroying it?
This is a conversation for a closed setting, sir.
Do you have any idea what the purpose of the Marines being sent, the units that are being sent over there, is the idea that we will put troops with boots on the ground in Iran?
ODNI and the IC is not involved in the operational planning and movements of the Department of War assets.
Thank you. I'll be very honest with you. When you made your original comments, it was kind of scary because of all the craziness that goes on in the world. I can't wait for the classified setting. Thank you.
Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see some old colleagues. I'm going to start, and thank you for the service, gentlemen and ma'am. I'm going to start with General Hartman, General Adams. Do you know how many days it's been since Russia went into Ukraine? I'll answer it for you. It's 1,480. Do you know how much money the United States government has spent, the taxpayers have spent in the war in Ukraine? I'm going to round it for you. It's about $200 billion. I mean, maybe it's a lot more, maybe it's a little less. It's hard to tell around this place. To the best of your knowledge, was Russia an imminent threat to the United States when they went into Ukraine, to the best of your knowledge? Sir?
Congressman, I wasn't in this position.
I understand.
When that decision was made.
I'm saying to the best of your knowledge. I know it goes back 1,480 days, but...
So certainly I don't think it was in the best interest of the United States for
but was Russia an imminent threat is what I'm asking.
Not my decision to make or advice to provide, Congressman.
Okay. How about you, General Adams?
Like General Hartman, I was in a different position 4 years ago. To make that assessment, are you? I guess can I ask you to clarify? Are you saying
was Russia going to attack the United States 1,480 days ago?
Weeks. Not to my knowledge.
Yeah. All right. You recall who the president was at that time, gentlemen? I'll help you out. It was President Biden. Do you know who the Speaker of the House was at that time? The name Ms. Pelosi ring a bell? Do you recall this Congress declaring war in Russia and Ukraine 1,480 days ago, or any time between then and now? I don't either. Do you know, gentlemen, how many American service members have been killed or maimed attributed to Iran, the IRGC, their proxies, et cetera, roughly? Any idea? Could we say probably 1,000 killed, if not 10,000, over 10,000 killed and maimed? Probably a reasonable assessment. You know how many uniformed service members have been killed by Russia in the last 1,480 days? American uniformed service personnel? I'm just asking. I don't know of any, but do you know of any? It just seems to me that there's almost like a political narrative being constructed here, and I just want to, point out this. It seems like a bit of an irony. I'm going to go to the director of the FBI. It's good to see you, Mr. Patel. Crossfire hurricane, Round River, plasmic echo, Arctic frost seem to have emanated from the counterintelligence division of the FBI. Is that a reasonably correct assessment, generally speaking?
Generally speaking, Congressman, I want to be careful here because there are a number of ongoing investigations.
I understand. There's a filing system that prohibited, well, with prohibited access. Is it possible that that politicized investigation and filing system violated Sixth Amendment rights to the discovery and Congress's Article 1 oversight authority? Is it possible?
Without giving you a definitive answer that rests with the DOJ, let me just talk about prohibited case files real quick.
Sure.
Prohibited case files are basically files that prior directors had created to essentially hide what was going on. They do not exist in our Sentinel systems. They do not exist anywhere. And if you search for that specific case, it won't even come up, which is why I, as the first FBI director to do so, have terminated prohibited case files. And as you know, I'm wed to constitutional oversight here at Congress and have delivered 50,000 pages, which is 400% more increase than my two predecessors combined.
Director, would ensnaring individuals or organizations based solely on their political affiliations or viewpoints be a potential violation of the Fourth Amendment?
I believe so.
Have any of the personnel associated with these activities, and I understand that investigations may be ongoing, have they been removed from duty pending the outcome investigation?
Yes, many have.
Okay, moving on. I'm concerned about a lab that was found in a clandestine Chinese biolab that was found in California and then.
You've been watching the annual hearing on worldwide threat assessments, talking to many of our intelligence leaders at the House in Washington, D.C. We'll continue to follow that throughout the day. Charlotte Today is up next here at 11 o'clock. Thanks for watching.